Hello, everybody. My name's James, and congratulations, you've made it halfway through Correspondent Week. And we've got a big one now on episode 11. It's the champions. Jonny Pringle is joining us to talk Manchester City. How are you, Johnny?
Good, thanks, James. Thank you for having me on again.
You're very welcome, mate. I wanted to ask you in the first instance reflection on the FA Cup final because we recorded with Gary. It was the last COTC we did last season just before the final, and the three of us were fairly unanimous that United didn't have much of a chance. That was a sickener for you, wasn't it? What happened?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, um, real sickener. I think we just got complacent, to be honest. I think, like you said, I think the team showed up a bit complacent. I think the fans certainly did. The nerves that are usually there around a cup final playing United didn't quite seem as sort of heightened as you would expect for a cup final against United, and I think that translated to the players on the pitch. Um, I think obviously the mistake for the first goal obviously sets us up, and then United score a genuinely good goal, and all of a sudden you find yourself 2-0 down. On another day, a bad performance might have found ourselves going at our time 0-0. And then you've got obviously got a real mountain to climb. I thought we actually did play very well in the second half and missed some big chances. And I think if Haaland or Alvarez put in their chances, we'd probably go on to win, but we couldn't do it. Fair play to United. They were probably the better team on the day. But yeah, it wasn't an ideal way to end the season.
It leave feeling a bit shit. I mean, this time last year we spoke a lot about your own personal motivation, having not only finally won the Champions League but also winning the treble, and finding your own motivation as a fan to kind of go again. I think you openly acknowledged that you weren't sure how you were going to feel about some things. Did
Mm.
it leave the end of the whole season feeling not a failure because you won the league and Arsenal obviously pushed you really hard, but almost feeling a bit empty at the end?
No, definitely not. It did still felt really good to obviously win the league and beat a really good Arsenal team to the title again, make it four in a row. That was the big thing we talked about at the start of the season, being the first team to do that. That felt like the big achievement. I think this was it, and the cup final felt like it was sort of like the cherry on top for us, but it was United's biggest game of the season, and you
Yeah.
could really tell that from the players on the pitch. Like we achieved our season's achievement the week before. United's was that day.
Whereas I suppose the year before, you obviously had that big build up where I know you felt, because we did the pod last year as well, don't lose to your big rival in arguably the biggest Manchester derby, right? And you'd
Yeah,
had that kind of weeks build to it where the title had been safe for a couple of weeks, right? And the Champions League final was still there. So the
yeah.
eyes were still on the ball, basically, right?
Yeah, this is what I say to my mates. I said, yeah, congratulations this year, but you weren't there when your treble was on the line, were you?
They'll tell you they had theirs once upon a time, mate.
Yeah.
Um, can you make it five in a row?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, obviously you can. That goes without saying. I know you now know what the correspondent predictions are, and more of the guys think that Arsenal will win it than yourselves. What's the reaction to that?
Well, so more people think Arsenal will than we.
Yeah,
Yeah, surprising. Obviously, usually it's pretty unanimous.
for yourselves. Yeah,
I thought that the Arsenal predictions will creep up and up each year. I think they've obviously just been getting better and better. I think the concern last year that I had about the hunger um, is even more heightened sort of next year. I think more on the Arsenal side, that their hunger will be even stronger. The season that always comes to my mind is the 1920 season when Liverpool went into it with such hunger, having missed out on it so close, and we sort of went into it on a dip. But to be fair, City proved that that wasn't the case last year. They went again, they won the title. So I'm suspecting we will do again this year. Um, I think Arsenal ended the season on a real solid run of form, looking quite imperious, especially defensively. And it reminds me of that sort of Liverpool team that ended the 18-19 season going in so strong that if they continue that form into this season and we just sort of falter a little bit at the start, I remember we dropped off quite drastically in that season, but I think there were mitigating circumstances like Fernandinho having to play in defence and things like that. So I don't think it'll be the case, but I'm expecting Arsenal to come out flying. We're going to need to keep up with them because I suspect we'll have a slow start with so many players coming back late. But yeah, I suppose going back to the original question, no, I'm not surprised people are backing Arsenal this year.
Does it motivate you more?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes back to the cup final. A taste of losing again made you realise what the hunger is like. And yeah,
I, I,
you do want to go five in a row. You do want to sort of hearing stuff like that people think Arsenal will beat us to the league. It's
well,
like no,
it's not just the correspondence, right? The bookies have you odds against to
yeah,
win the title. And I'm gonna think that's probably the first time since obviously the Centurion season, at least, where you'd have been odds against to win the title. I think even going in with Liverpool, you probably normally odds on.
yeah,
So the bookies think less than a 50% chance that you'll win it as well, right?
yeah.
They'll know where the money is and stuff. When you're looking at fixtures now, and I don't know if you did this with Liverpool, I'm gonna guess you probably did. Are you looking at Arsenal's as well?
A little bit. I've obviously noticed their start. In a way, I'm more thinking that I'd rather have them tough fixtures towards the end because if they get through them fixtures, then it's obviously a lot of difficult fixtures that they sort of navigate. Um, no, I tend to just sort of look at our own, look at sort of the start we have, the running that we have. I always think the running's like the most important part. City, obviously, so famously good in runnings recently. Um, I think that was a point I sort of went to look at Arsenal's running fixtures. I'm just looking at them again now. They've got Everton away, Liverpool away. The rest of the fixtures are quite friendly. So
So are yours in the running.
yeah, I wouldn't expect much movement there. I think like I say, that Liverpool away game might be tasty. But yeah, it might be interesting in that the title might sort of be not decided, but the way the chips fall, maybe going into March, might not move that much.
Am I right in saying the year Liverpool won it, you lost 3-1 at Liverpool, the controversial, the handball, and then the Fabinho goal at the other end at Anfield. I want to say that was sort of October, November.
That was the season they won it.
Yeah. But it felt like it was done then.
Yeah,
I feel like you were sort of 10, 12 points behind already or something like that.
yeah,
And I think they might have even won every game at that point, maybe bar, I think one draw at Manchester United. And you thought, oh, it's a long way already, even with sort of 5 months of the season to go.
yeah,
When I look at Arsenal's fixture list, even though I think they might win it, I don't see that circumstance happening where they're gonna sort of win 12 and draw one of the first 13 or stuff. Arsenal, Tottenham, yourselves, Newcastle, Chelsea, all away, and Liverpool at home inside that run means that they're unlikely, I think, to replicate what Liverpool that train that Liverpool got on in that season.
yeah,
So I think that's to your benefit. But your start's fairly tough as well, mate.
yeah. I know. Yeah, obviously. Well, Chelsea away first up. We've had that a couple of times, haven't we? We played Arsenal away. We played you
Us.
guys 2021 and got beat. Yeah, it's never ideal after a tournament, particularly. Um, yeah, but like I said, then we've got Arsenal, Newcastle chucked in there, but some friendly fixtures around that. I don't mind when we sort of have like clumps of difficult fixtures because I feel like City sort of like get themselves quite up for navigating groups of fixtures like that, and then we tend to just go on good runs in between.
Okay. That's interesting. Let's talk about Alvarez first. Timestamp this, we're pre-recording lunchtime on Tuesday the 6th. We think he's going to Atletico Madrid, Johnny. Is that right?
Yeah, looks like it. Reports this morning seem to basically say that they've agreed a fee.
Monster cash.
Yeah, it's a lot. We talked just before the pod. Yeah, looking like about 80 mil, maybe up to 95 mil. Euros is that?
I think so.
Yeah, which is yeah, a pretty hefty fee. I think I've said the whole time, in even during last season, I think his stock outside of City is probably higher than our fans' opinions of him, if you know what I mean. I think he's never going to get in ahead of Haaland unless he's injured. He looks a little bit awkward in midfield. We discussed that last year. So while his stock is so high, I think it's the right move to cash in on him. Um, I think people would probably think that the fee is quite high because of like his performances and the fact that he hasn't played that much, but he still got 30 goals and assists last year. He's seen that he can be a top quality striker if he's playing up front every game. Um, I think he's probably worth about 60, 70 mil. So they're probably overpaying by about 10, 15. I think we've got a really good deal out of it, to be honest.
Did he essentially cover Gundogan last year from the goals perspective? And
Yeah,
obviously more.
yeah. Covered sort of like De Bruyne while he was injured. Haaland.
That felt like a real concern towards the start of last season was goals from midfield. And Alvarez was obviously playing a slightly more advanced role. But from the goals return perspective, I think he covered that off. That now needs covering, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
So
because that the thing is, it's maybe poor as he was in midfield, or maybe as clunky as he was in midfield, he still scored goals and got assists.
what do you expect City to do?
So I think we've obviously signed Savinho, who will play right wing. We've got Oscar Bobb, who I'm sure we'll talk about, who sort of started to come through last season. I really like him, had a really good preseason. And I think that basically frees up Foden and Bernardo to move inside again. De Bruyne is obviously fit from the start of the season, so I expect he'll play there. Um, I don't know what we'll do with the Alvarez cash. I think some people want us to basically just directly replace him. Some names like Danny Olmo, Musiala, Florian Wirtz, don't know how feasible they are.
Eze.
Eze, yeah, people like that. I think there's another train of thought with the fans to actually invest in maybe a midfield a bit further back. So like a Bruno Guimaraes or like a Sam Wharton to sort of like help Rodri out, like on sort of like 6/8, and maybe say that, well, we are quite well stocked with if we move Foden inside. Um, I'm a bit cynical. I think City might just bank the cash and maybe go for it when De Bruyne potentially leaves next season.
Okay. Because we're clear he's staying now, aren't we? Like Pep said.
Yeah, I think so. Nothing's obviously ever certain, but I would have thought it would have happened by now if he was to go.
Okay. So you think that the money might not get spent?
Yeah, I think so. Unless it's right, we know that. Oh, apart from Nunes, um, City don't tend to just go for anyone. They have to be perfect. If the right person doesn't emerge this summer, they won't bother. They'll just save it for next season.
Elephant in the room. Is there a case that you might not spend the money because the charge is hanging over you?
Well, as in we won't be able to because players won't want to come to us, or
I think it's very different. I'm trying to think here. If I'm Eze, just use it as an example because we know the player and we know there's a release clause there. If you play it, presumably he joins you.
yeah.
But could there be, from his perspective as a player, any second thoughts to that? And I think probably more I'm getting at, could there be hesitation from the club to spend the money because of the charges hanging over you?
I don't think so because the club are convinced that we're going to be cleared and that.
They're going to say that, though, aren't they, Johnny?
Yeah, exactly. But you ask if there's no hesitation from the club. There won't be. If there was any hesitation from the club, that's obviously a sign of, well, a sign of weakness or a sign that we maybe aren't going to get cleared. So I think they'll be sort of like pretty convincing. Like I say, I think if there was a clear replacement there, for example, if Musiala was up for sale for 100 odd mil, I think they'd just go and throw the money at him. But like I say, I wouldn't read into it like that.
Okay. No, that's fair. Um, Ederson, do we think he'll stay? Another one might go, maybe? What's the situation at the moment?
There was one Saudi club. I forget the names of the Saudi clubs. I think the first one who came in was Al Nassr. I think the second was Al Ittihad. I think the first club came in. I think they moved on. The second club came in. I think they've moved on as well. I think it goes back to the Tottenham game actually, when Ortega came on and made that save from Son, and Ortega got an awful lot of credit. People even saying Ederson wouldn't have saved that. In the presentation after we won the league, Ortega got a bigger cheer than Ederson. And I think Ederson sort of saw his ass a little bit. Sort of,
Really?
apparently, that's what some of the journalists around City have said. And as
Then,
much as
I mean, essentially, in your league season, and I'm sure you can go back further, but in terms of the late moments,
yeah,
Ortega essentially had the biggest moment,
yeah, exactly.
basically.
And I think like the mentality you would like him to have is, yeah, okay, maybe I wasn't there, but like my mate, my backup has stepped up
Yeah, the guy who
and won
has
and
to sit and watch
won
you.
me another medal. Um, I think he's won everything he has to. He's had to win with City. Obviously, it's life changing money from Saudi. I don't begrudge him sort of like listening to it, but yeah, I think in the end, actually, I don't know. I don't think the Saudi clubs actually wanted to pay for him by the sounds of it, which is strange. So I don't think it's going to happen now.
FPL done right putting Ortega at 5.5 though, haven't they?
Yeah, I noticed that. That was clever.
Yeah, they've definitely give this more thought this year because I mean, if they'd have priced him at 4 million again and Ederson had gone, there's no other goalkeeper in the game, is there? Basically, so that would have been a waste of time. Okay, you think you might stay though?
Yeah, it's looking like it. I think I'm more confident of De Bruyne staying than him. It wouldn't totally shock me if Ederson went, but yeah, I think at the moment it's looking like he'll stay.
Would you be comfortable if Ortega was the permanent number one?
Not 100%. I think he's obviously a very good keeper. I think he's a very good backup. I'd be a little bit skeptical because we haven't seen him over the course of a season. It obviously might be different if he didn't make the mistake in the FA Cup final. Um, but yeah, I don't think it would be ideal. I think Ederson obviously suits City down to the ground. I think obviously Ederson or Ortega are a brilliant pair of keepers. I think the pair that you would end up with is definitely going to be a downgrade.
Well, yeah, if Ederson went, you've got to replace, haven't you?
Yeah.
As in, even if it's just a number two, you'd have
Well,
to go
that's
and
the
buy
thing is
another
like, let's say
goalkeeper.
there was rumours that maybe we might bring James Trafford back as like Ortega's number two, and then you'd
Okay.
say Ortega and Trafford are definitely a downgrade on Ederson and Ortega.
I mean, you are blessed to have a number two like that. I just
Yeah,
don't think it's
exactly.
right to ask the question, would you be comfortable if he's your number one? Because although I'm particularly very critical on Ederson's ability to save shots from an FPL perspective, it's no doubt he's still one of the best keepers around, mate.
Yeah,
And very experienced. But let's talk about big Norwegian, mate. Firstly, the reaction when you saw the 15 million price.
I was quite happy. Like for
Yeah,
like most
agreed.
people, just it gives you a decision to make. I mean, my initial thought was I'm not going to pay it because look at Salah's fixtures, and then I've ended up on the other side of the fence where I've got him now. I think it reflects in his ownership. He was 80% at the start of last season. Isn't it something like 35, 40%? It's creeping up. Obviously, he's
Yeah,
got,
and it'll keep creeping.
and it'll keep creeping. I don't know. Maybe it will end up at the point where people think we just have to have him. See what he does on Sunday against United.
So he's a yes for you.
Yes, at the moment for me, yeah.
Have you thought about strategy, i.e., first wild card?
Not really. This is the thing that I think I need to think about. The transfers have obviously changed the game literally a lot. My initial instinct was to sort of see if I could build a team without Haaland and Salah. You can get it incredibly strong, can't you?
Yes.
Um,
But you just keep coming back to the captaincy, bashing
you,
you on the head.
you just keep coming back to the captaincy. Like I said, I tried a draft with Salah, um, but then sort of got a little bit put off by some comments in preseason about him playing wide. Tried a draft with Haaland. Yes, it works. He obviously looks good in preseason. I think the Chelsea away fixture obviously is the elephant in the room, but he's obviously capable of scoring against
Well,
Chelsea.
he's just got a hat trick against them,
Literally
Johnny.
scored three against them, and then yeah, like the Ipswich game. Everyone just mentions the Ipswich game. You just don't want to be caught short on that, do you?
That's the awful one. Yeah, is the Ipswich one. Because I think even Brentford at home in four, like Salah's got Forest at home. So
Yeah,
you can certainly have a debate. I mean, Holland at home to Brentford is not something you'd want to take on, but you'd feel like, okay, I'm armed. I can, if I've got Salah, I can take him on. I think game week one, obviously Mo, a lot of us are going to captain Isak. I think game week one feels like fine. Game week two, even though Salah's got Brentford at home, it's clear a cut, and that's the one that's really scary. The tell you what's interesting about it is this discussion with Gary Robinson after we finished recording our Man United correspondent. Like how many for to pay for Haaland at 15? How often do you need to captain him to justify that?
I mean probably 4 out of 5 games.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
say.
that's fair. So I looked at the first half of the season, and I think I'd probably have Haaland best for 14 out of 19. So
Yeah,
there's near enough there. So I think that's reasonable. But across the first six, I think only three. But then also it's three of the first four,
yeah,
and they're all in a row, 2 to 4.
yeah.
So I think with them you can spin your narratives either way. He is the scariest player to go without. And I'm gonna get I didn't doubt that you would have him. actually. I didn't think
Yeah,
you
because
would have gone without.
like I've said to you in the past, it's just if me as a City fan that follows City quite a lot, I'm going to Chelsea next week. If I didn't have him and he scored twice, I don't want to be stood there in your way and thinking, "Fucking hell, why haven't I got Haaland?" I want to be buzzing that I've got him in my fantasy team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. His ownership's gonna increase. I guess though, from what you're saying, you said you'd heard a few people kind of questioning Salah. On the Haaland v Salah, you would sit on the Haaland side, we would expect.
At the moment, I mean, I'd sort of made my peace with it, but then I went and had a look at Salah's fixtures again. They are brilliant to open. And I remember, I think me and you talked about it once. There was a season, I think it was the lockdown season, where he started it to Leeds at home and people overthought it. And I just thought, newly promoted side, Captain Salah, he scores a hat trick. He did it against Norwich when they were a newly promoted side at
Yeah,
the start of the season once.
yeah,
I think we did it. Yeah, so he did it Norwich at home, and they did it in Norwich away in 21. So Salah has a bit of pedigree, and like I say, them opening fixtures are good.
yeah.
It's just
I'd forgot I didn't have him for that Leeds one, and
yeah,
you've reminded me of that, and I've gone, why have you done that, Johnny? I had him for the two Norwich ones, but in fact, no, I didn't. I think the first one against Norwich I didn't because that was the year I went treble Liverpool defense. That
yeah,
one wasn't so bad. The Leeds one was horrendous when he got the hat trick. Oh, it was two pens as well, wasn't it? I think from memory.
yeah, yeah. And I did try a draft with Haaland and Salah. I can see why people want to do that. With sort of just the questions over whether Saka and Palmer are going to start the season, whether you do just try and stretch to Salah and Haaland, then it maybe brings like the early wild card in, and I can see why people want to do it. I think this is why the pricing's so good, is because even 10 days out, no one's set on like the structure of the team.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, it
This
is
is the
good.
best job they've done for years because I think like the increase of people like profiles like Isak and Watkins, Saka, Palmer, so much more choice.
Yeah,
Last year we just had the Haaland, Salah, Kane, then Kane went,
yeah,
and then it was you could put them both in if you want, but you was at least going to have definitely one. There is a case even to say, well, if I get of Isak, Watkins, Havertz, Son, Palmer, you can do it all and just pick your best one week to week from that. You're going to have a good captain every week. You're just not going to have the captain every week. And you know it's going to burn sometimes. You'd have to accept it if you go against. There's no way if you go against Erling Haaland that there isn't going to be periods of pain.
yeah,
And Paul said on episode 2, he's like, I can't tell you we're going to keep Haaland out, mate. No, he may well go off. There is a historical as well of, I think, early season good returns against particularly promoted teams for Haaland. Although Gary actually as well did point out that he's failed to score in the opening Manchester City home game of both seasons so far.
yeah. Because there was the famous game. Well, it's not famous.
The Mark Travers
But,
game.
yeah, where he scored twice against West Ham, didn't he? And then
Yeah.
Bournemouth home, everyone was like, "Oh my god!" People even played the triple captain on him,
Yeah.
and he got one assist.
Yeah. When you won 4-0.
Yeah, but I've got pictures in my head. City usually start well. First home game of the season in the sun. Usually, City have a good game.
It's worth saying the reason I called it the Mark Travers game is because the answer to the question for about 3 months was who's the only goalkeeper who Haaland hasn't scored against, and it was Mark Travers.
Oh,
The
well, fair.
opening game last year was 1-0 against Newcastle, which we can understand. Goal scorer that day was Phil Foden. Where do you sit on Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne at the same price? I think I know.
Yeah, I think it's Foden.
That's just based on conversations we've had throughout last season that there's a case of Foden taking over now, and there's a case to say yeah, it's Foden instead of KDB. Does it feel different now that they're at the same price though?
Maybe ever so slightly, but I still don't think so. I think, like you said, Foden's the main man now. Ended the season so well, was scoring goals, getting in such good positions. I think particularly now, like I said, we've signed right wingers and Bob's come through, so he doesn't need to do that job out there. I think De Bruyne will probably be used a bit more sparingly as well. Um, yeah, I think Foden's going to be our talisman this year when he's back. And I think goes back to the conversation about Alvarez is if Haaland got injured, who'd play up front if we didn't sign any replacements? I think the candidates are Foden, Oscar Bobb.
Bernardo.
Bernardo. Yeah.
Does going with Haaland though kind of psychologically make you feel like you're not going to go with Foden?
Maybe slightly, but you have to try and separate them things out in fantasy football, don't
You
you?
too.
You have to just compare them. Yes, okay, I've got Haaland, so if City blank, then they're both blanking, but you have to compare them to the likes of Palmer. You have to compare Foden to the likes of Palmer, Saka, Son.
I guess also I was thinking it from a captaincy perspective. We've obviously never captained Foden ahead of Haaland anyway, so it's a moot point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paying that for you don't need to captain a player at 9.5. Okay, Foden over KDB. How do you see him in comparison to Palmer, Saka, Son?
But he doesn't have pens. So I probably have him a little bit further back for now. Like I say, he's getting back late. He's going to miss Community Shield. I think he's only back in training next week. So I don't think he'll start the Chelsea game. I think Chelsea and Arsenal are more inclined to throw Palmer and Saka back in. I don't know. He might be thrown in against Ipswich. And if he was, then yeah, you'd like him. But yeah, I think I'd have Palmer and Saka probably ahead because they've got pens and, like I say, more likely to be thrown in earlier.
I get the impression you're probably not going to start with any of those four, though.
I've got Saka at the moment.
Okay. So you've got something at that value.
Yes, I quite like just sort of having that structure.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
It's sensible. It definitely is. And I think Saka, even Adam Pritchard said it on episode 1. Yeah, he's got two legs. He'll play when he. Son is the only one that's had the break though.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted by Son as well. I just keep tinkering. Like I said, I tried going up to Salah. I've tried seeing Saka or Palmer because I do really like Palmer. And there's a little bit of a psychological thing there. If you've got Nkunku as well, it's like, do you want both Chelsea players? Which one do you have? I think, like I said, I don't know which one I'll land on. I'm hoping it becomes just a bit clearer with maybe friendlies and next
well,
week.
one thing that might become clearer in friendlies coming in, Oscar Bobb. Is he in?
Yeah. No, he's not for me at the moment.
Ah, Johnny, you let everyone down.
I had him in at some point last week. I just wanted to see what it looked like. But like I said, it's just that Chelsea away fixture. No, I
Did
really
you
like.
not watch the friendly with Chelsea, Johnny?
Yeah, true, where he scored. I think my worry is that if he's a young player, if he doesn't play well against Chelsea, could he just be yeeted straight out the team for a Bernardo, a Foden? I don't actually think he will be. I think he was sort of coming through last year. He looks really good. I think the thing I've noticed about him in pre-season is he's grown a little bit, both physically, but both in stature. You can tell he's sort of like, I'm one of the first team players now. Compared to the young players that played in pre-season that have never played in the first team. They were trusting him on the ball. He was getting goals and assists. I think he does have numbers in him. I do think I do think he will start the season. I doubt that would happen. The scenario I was describing where he'd play badly and probably be taken out of the team. I think he'll probably at least be given the first 2 or 3. So yeah, if you're planning an early wild card, I wouldn't mind it. I would really like to go there myself, and I wouldn't be unhappy if I landed on a team with Oscar Bobb in.
Okay. It's a different question to what I normally ask, because quite often we ask about game week 1. What percentage would you put on Oscar Bobb starting game week 2?
Probably like 80%,
That's
75%.
quite high.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Competition. In fact, let's rephrase the question. Where can he play? You've already mentioned false 9.
Yeah.
Is it wide as well? Is it central as well? Can he fill any of them attacking positions, basically?
He's mainly a right winger.
Yeah.
And I think Pep trusts him a lot. He's the sort of type of player which really good touch, really good close control, recycling possession. So he has all of that stuff, but also has the ability to sort of like drive into the box. He's a good finisher, can pick out passes, cross the ball. He's played on the left. He played on the left when he came on against Newcastle.
Yeah, the
Scored
Newcastle goal, yeah.
last season. So yeah, I think he is quite versatile as well.
Okay, so competition on the right, if that's his best position. I suppose on the left, still Grealish, Doku, maybe a bit of Foden, maybe. subject to availability, but that feels a bit less with Alvarez going.
Yeah.
On the right, competition is what Bernardo, Savinho, and I guess Doku as well, if Grealish is playing on the left.
Yeah.
That's a fair chunk.
Yeah, I think Pep Savinho hasn't played any games yet. He's young, obviously coming from Girona. I know Bob is as well, but Bob has played more games for City. I think Bob probably has a bit more status at the moment than Savinho in maybe Pep's eyes, so probably gets the nod there. It's just whether Bernardo comes back, and Pep just loves Bernardo on the right wing in big games. He's just his go-to man there. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if, say, like Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, when we got to them games, he was like, right, okay, yeah, young lads, maybe let's trust Bernardo in these games.
Could he also, though, because I think it's fair to say you're probably going to go into game week 1. There's the history. You mentioned that difficult opening games you've had in the past. The game at Tottenham, you lost. You were very understrength that day. I remember that De Bruyne being a sub, and there was a few others as well. You go to somewhere like Chelsea, despite what just happened in a friendly, you know you could get beat there.
Yeah,
Is there a chance, therefore, that nah, actually, because I've got players, I'll go back to my glue of Bernardo and put him in,
yeah,
particularly when Chelsea probably don't have someone invert from left back, but they might try that sort of thing to do something different. And someone like Bernardo is really good to just adapt and go, okay, I'll go and follow Cucurella if he's going to go inside, rather than put that pressure on a kid.
yeah, maybe. But I think Bob is quite highly rated by Pep. I think he's a really intelligent player. Um, I think Bernardo is a candidate, one of the candidates of players that arrive back to come straight in because his fitness is just so good. But I wouldn't be surprised if Pep put him straight in centre midfield.
That's going to really appeal to people, Johnny. You know what you just said, right?
What's
5
what?
million, 5 million attacking Man City player with Ipswich at home game week 2, 80% probability of starting. I mean, to be honest, most of your players would probably be 80% probability at home to Ipswich anyway, wouldn't they? Just generally, normally in a season.
Yeah, you think
You
so?
could have the rotation, couldn't you? So,
Yeah.
okay, alerted. Of the 6.5s, is there anything there that you like? Rodri, Doku, Grealish. Is there anything that you like? And
Not
obviously, Savinho as well.
not particularly for now. Bernardo's the same as what we always say, isn't particularly a numbers man. Doku coming back late is going to rotate with Grealish. Grealish will start the season. We'll probably get the first 2 or 3, but has never sort of been. He had that short stint in sort of like 2022, 23, where he was an option. Rodri, I mean, the worst bets is obviously very similar to Declan Rice, isn't he? If you put him in, you could sort of leave him there and he'll chip away with the odd goal or assist. I mean, looking at him now, how many points did he get? 159.
It's more than the odd goal and assist, man. I mean, he and Declan Rice phenomenal last season.
You couldn't complain with that, could you? Savio, I think was probably just a bit too much unknown about him at the moment. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe he became an option later in the season, but you wouldn't want to start with him.
Come back to your point on Grealish definitely starting,
Mm.
in your opinion. Why is that?
He's started every game in pre-season, and Doku's not back yet. I think he's taken the England squad, missing out on the England squad quite personally. I think he feels like he has a bit of a point to prove. I think City fans want to see it from him
Yeah.
because arguably he's only really had a good 6 months at City in that second half of the 22-23 season. I think he needs to. I think if he doesn't have a good season this season, questions might start to be asked. So I think he's looking sharp in pre-season. And yeah, just the fact that Doku's not back, I think he will start out there.
Is he never likely to be a good FPL asset again playing for you, do you think? Jack Grealish.
I wouldn't say, yeah, I think that statement's probably fair. He's
Because
probably
him at six,
unlikely
him
to
at
be.
6.5 starting for you. So right, yeah, I think Jack Grealish definitely starts at 6.5. I'm just trying to think if we had that conversation a couple of years ago, we going, he's going in. And
Yeah,
that period at the end of the 22-23 season, wasn't it? I remember like the outstanding performance, particularly against Liverpool when he won 4-1.
yeah,
You think, yeah, I really want this player now. I remember I've got to get him. And he had the really good performance at Southampton. I think goal and assist, I remember as well. I think
yeah,
he's good. He's good for Haaland. I think Haaland likes him more
yeah,
than the erraticness of Doku I've covered several times over.
yeah. I agree with that.
But yeah, at 6.5, we're not going to go there. That's really interesting. We're
Yeah,
just
I think
ruling
the
him out.
rotation chucked in there. Like I said, the fact he just doesn't get amazing numbers. Yeah, like I said, there could be stints. I remember I put him in that Southampton game and was really pleased he got a goal and assist. But that was when it was really obvious he was nailed and looking really good for goals and assists. So unless a patch like that really emerges, I don't think I'll go near him.
Yeah, some players will you can punt on. I think on fixtures and the form might come. Jack Grealish now feels like a player we need to see it first
Yeah.
before we invest in. I think I can't help thinking with you saying that about Grealish on the left that there's just so much competition in the rest of that team for Bob to scare me.
Yeah, I think Doku. I think Doku is a natural left winger, though. I think he much prefers playing there. I think you'd probably see Doku just start to come in and eat Grealish's minutes rather than on the right hand side.
Okay, fair. Um, Josko Gvardiol, yes or no
Yeah,
for you?
he's in at the moment. Yeah. Started every game in pre-season, albeit at centre back.
Yep.
Um, a bit of a hot take. I do think he is a slightly overrated asset. I think I see people comparing him to Cancelo. I don't think he's as like naturally attacking as Cancelo. Cancelo was really good for goals and assists. I think Guardiola did have a bit of a purple patch towards the end of last season. Um, but you can't really argue with his position, and he plays wide left, drifts inside. He knows what he's doing when he gets in the box. He gets shots away. He can find passes. I think he's City's most likely defender to start the season. So yeah, he's in my team at the moment.
Do you see him going back to that left back position, even if it's not right from the start?
Well, I think this is the thing is that I wouldn't be surprised if he started the season at centre back.
Okay.
But I think he naturally will end up back at left back. So people might have to sort of like maybe suffer him playing centre back at Chelsea. Um, I don't know though, because all the sort of like first choice defenders. I mean, we've got Calvin Phillips playing centre back in pre-season. You think surely he's going to bring some of the players at the Euros back in. How many of them he throws back in? He might just do that and put Vardiol back at left back. But yeah, people might have to brace themselves for Vardiol maybe playing centre back for a game or two.
Just a little point because you referenced Cancelo.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's worth saying that his peak he did go to 7 million. So
yeah.
if you look at it like that, Vardio at 6 still feels pretty reasonable. I take it
Yeah.
there's no chance of Cancelo
Don't think
reintegration
so.
here.
Don't think so. I mean, imagine if he did 5.5, but
Oh
no,
my days.
I think he's cooked at City. Yeah, proper fell out with Pep. I thought we'd have a sort of obligation to play him in pre-season, take him on the tour, but he
No.
didn't. He didn't play a minute, so I think he's fully in the bin.
Okay. Do you like any of them 5.5s or is Vardio definitely worth the extra?
Not really. I think none of us. I think the other 5.5s are prone to obviously all the usual things with City defenders, rotation. None of them really outstanding for attacking returns. Um, I think that was what stood out about Vardy. Is he seemed to nail that left back spot and got attacking returns. So yeah, definitely paid an extra 0.5 over any of them.
Okay. Good stuff. Final question. Predicted game week 111, sir.
All right, this is really tough. Um, so the team that's just played the latest, I'll talk you through my logic. The team that sort of played the latest preseason game was Ederson, Rico Lewis, Calvin Phillips, Vardiol, and I think it was Josh Wilson Esbrand at left back. Then who's it been? It's been Nico O'Reilly and Kovacic and James McAtee, who looks like he's going to be staying for the season. Bob right hand up front, Grealish left. Now that sounds like a really weak squad. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the team that played in or started in the Community Shield.
Okay.
I think maybe he'll sort of bring someone in for Phillips. Um, he might bring Ake back in at left back. I wouldn't like if that team started against Chelsea. I suspect it will be something like Ederson. I think Rico Lewis is solid enough to play right back against Chelsea. Um, I'm maybe going to say he'll bring Akanji in because Akanji seems to be like Pep's go-to man with Vardiol, Ake left back. Again, I think Pep trusts him.
So
Might
surely if it's Aki and Vardio, it'd be Vardio at left back,
yeah,
no?
maybe. Yeah, you're right.
Good flip, yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he'll bring Stones back straight away because of
If he
his
wants to
fit.
go more defensive, it could be Aki at left back. But I
Yeah.
think if he wants to do what he did at the end of the last season, it'd be Gvardiol on the outside of Ake.
Yeah, I think basically what I'm saying is I think Lewis and Gvardiol will play, and then I think it'll be two of Akanji, Diaz, and Ake. I don't know which two. Um, I'm assuming he's going to just throw Rodri back in because he literally has to play. Unless I saw a room yesterday that he's still carrying a niggle from the Euro final.
Yeah, of course.
But even if he is, Rodri's just so important to us. Chelsea away, you know what I mean? If it was someone else away, I think he'll just bring him straight back in. I suspect he'll probably play Kovacic. Like I say, I think he might bring Bernardo back in. I doubt that sort of McAtee or O'Reilly will start at Chelsea. I think Bob will start right wing, Haaland up front, and Grealish left.
Back KDB.
Again, I think
went out early enough, mate, in the tournament.
yeah, maybe. And
Went out last 16.
He was in training.
Oh no, quarterfinals. Sorry, quarterfinals.
Yeah, he was in training last week.
No, it is last 16, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, last 16.
Yeah, whereas Foden got to the final. When did Portugal go out?
Portugal was quarters.
So that was
So
maybe
De Bruyne was out first. De Bruyne last 16 really should be, I think, ready to go game week 1.
If De Bruyne starts to say at the weekend or comes on and gets like 45 minutes, then I'd be like, yeah, he'll probably be more likely.
The year you lost to us opening day and he was a sub, that Belgium got to the quarters. I mean, I don't know what the time frame difference is, but there's 1 round extra there, if that makes any difference.
Yeah, and he's older and a bit more. He just hasn't got the energy. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe to be thrown into like a big game straight away. But I'm underrating Kevin De Bruyne here. I wouldn't be surprised if he threw him in.
Okay.
I think that's a position. I'm pretty sure he'll throw Rodri back in. He'll play Kovacic. It'll be Bob, Haaland, and Grealish. It's just that other midfield spot I'm not sure about.
Okay, interesting. So I think one more just a quick takeaway from that then. Rico Lewis, you think will start the first couple? Should we be looking at that then? At 4.5?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean, I did notice that. If Flapjack's listening, he really likes Rico Lewis.
I started with him last year, about 1 minute before deadline, when I had John Stones and Gabriel sitting in my team about the bench post. So I was mighty lucky.
Played against Burnley, didn't he? Rico
He
Lewis.
did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll start. I think Rico's had a good preseason. I think we need to use more of him, to be honest. He's a very good player. I don't know where his future will sort of be. But yeah, I won't be surprised if he started the season. But again, I think it's sort of similar scenario to Bob in that might just immediately just be dropped for Walker or Akanji the game after.
Yeah, I hear that. Johnny, thank you very much. Best of luck for the season, my friend. Anything you want to plug, either for yourself or City content before we finish?
No, just my Twitter account at FPL Pringle. Yeah, there's better people out there than me for predicting the team.
Yeah, don't ask Johnny for the nailed players because this is Manchester City as a reminder, children, but do give Johnny a follow on the Bird app. Thank you very much, pal. Right, next. Back on the tram, managed to Piccadilly, down to Euston, probably walk the King's Cross, Northern Line, London Bridge, into Norwood Junction. Is that how you'd go to Palace?
Yeah.
There you go. Spot on. Roy McLaughlin Dowd and Crystal Palace next on Correspondent Week. Thank you, Johnny. Good luck for the season. Cue music, please, man show.